Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Friday, March 27th. We're starting later today, but on a Friday that probably doesn't matter. I would say that's mostly due to just oversleeping more than anything else. Let's go ahead and re-roll this, and then let's see if we can maybe turn the idle music down a little bit more. I had changed the audio, and ironically, there was a bug that happened right after streaming on Wednesday that happened that was causing trouble connecting and logging in, and they did a emergency update to that to the software, to the app, and in order to fix that bug, and they still didn't bother to fix whatever they did with the minimized audio issue. So it's just clearly they should know this is a problem. It's been reported on their own service, so the fact that they can't just revert whatever change they made is really ridiculous. It should really be less than 4 hours of work to figure out what they changed and how to undo that change to get the audio back, because it's getting, now that we're a week into it, really annoying to either have to have the audio duck out every time I click on my second monitor or play the one idle song. It's kind of hard to find good copyright free, content ID free being different than things that are a public domain and copyright free, because there's plenty of things that really you should be able to play audio wise on YouTube that YouTube still has a lot of scammers claiming they own. So I just don't really have the time or frankly the energy to go and try and find a whole mix of songs that sound good enough. Since everybody's self-isolating, we have a historic Pauper here, which this very well may be the first time Pauper has ever been introduced as a standard, as a way of playing in Magic Arena. I've heard arguments, and I don't know if I fully understand it from the free-to-play digital perspective as somebody who doesn't own any physical Magic cards. I don't know if Pauper makes sense for Magic Arena. I think Pauper, as I understand it, which I barely do, makes sense for playing the real-world Magic, because that is a format that's going to let you have cards, I think, and play those cards a lot longer than standard, which rotates out, and it's not going back as far as something like traditional or historic or pioneer goes to, where each of those expansions has a different level of older cards that would be harder to buy. So I guess we might try this. It's not a great experience. You have two losses you can have, and if you get 3 wins, well, you get 3 cards. Actually, that's probably a pretty pathetic deal offering. You get 3 cards with 0 wins, so you're paying 500 for 3 random uncommon cards that are not in standard, which does, I guess, help you expand historic. But you have to also take note that is historic Pauper, not regular Pauper, so there's a difference there too. Historic seemingly seems to be a thing that only exists in Magic Arena and is just there to be a middle step between standard and traditional and Pioneer, which frankly, as soon as they get all the cards from Pioneer, you'll see Historic almost certainly disappear or get merged. The other thing we have here is a Friday Night Magic at home challenger decks, which they just don't want people going to the comic book stores because of social isolating. Let's see. If you share your results with the local game store, click here to find out. You'll get a free sleeve. I really wouldn't care about that, but inside the game you get an at least rare and an at least rare, and you have 4 if I can count right decks. You have here a 3 mana deck that you could play as, and there definitely is a problem with my attention span as far as Magic, because already I've hit too many of these where you're supposed to look at all these cards and read them, and my TV's far enough away that it's kind of hard to read these cards even when you hover over them, and I've just been kind of overwhelmed and underimpressed as far as the cards that are available to look at. So I'm kind of just highlighting these things for the benefit of my audience at this point. I'm just like, yeah, I'll just play these cards and we'll just see what happens. This one has a sideboard of quite a few cards. Did the other one have a sideboard? Yep, it definitely did. Most of these don't have sideboards, and I imagine it isn't a case that each of these decks have a card that pulls something out of the sideboard. I imagine this is literally just they've made sideboard decks so that people could actually play Friday Night Magic. Now my understanding is that Friday Night Magic, is it drafts that happen, or is there a different, is it Wednesday draft and Friday Night Magic playing your regular decks, or is it some people play drafts and some people play other standard other formats on Friday? Like that's where it really gets down to the craziness, is that you very possibly could go play Friday Night Magic and spend 6 hours playing like one draft and then a whole bunch of standard play. Like I kind of feel like it's got to be Wednesday drafts or something, Tuesday drafts, Monday drafts, like something along that line. And that they actually want you in the game stores when they actually want you in game stores. Twice a week on average. Of course, with comic book stores also, in my mind, being very similar, if not the same thing as game stores, I think there's probably a lot of comic book stores that have Magic and other things happening in the back or on certain days as kind of attractions. It seems very much like comic book stores are going to have a real hard time in general surviving this social isolating. A lot of businesses are definitely going to fail. The only thing I could even suspect that would save comic book stores is if they merged with some new company and had like, if they merged with something like GameStop, that would have been the genius thing in my mind to do. Is GameStop should have dropped their name GameStop and been more like the major corporation that owns most of the funeral homes in the United States, and they just would own all the comic book stores and be able to negotiate perhaps better let's see, that negotiate better deals. Right. I guess I want Planeswalkers. This is like Planeswalker on top of Planeswalker on top of Planeswalker. And I probably didn't need 2 copies of that Planeswalker. But yeah, I think the comic book industry is going to hurt the comic book stores to the point where the overlap of comic book stores that also are game shops is going to cause a significant amount of failure in that way too. And it's not like Hasbro or Hasbro in general. Yeah, I imagine, I could be wrong about this, maybe all game shops now do just have an entire wall of Hasbro games like Monopoly, Clue, things like that in their stores. But I imagine they're kind of not doing that even now. It would be a good idea. I imagine you do probably at least a couple times a week have somebody walk into a game shop saying, hey, do you have Monopoly? Hey, do you have this? Hey, do you have that? And you could easily have a wall of like some of the more custom boards of Monopoly, and then stand out compared to having something like just standard Monopoly, which you could get at probably Walmart. So yeah, I think when all of this social isolating is done, we'll see a lot of comic shops and game shops dead, and that will probably affect the way Magic is sold and the way things happen in Magic. In a weird way, it also, if almost all Magic cards were sold directly, then there might be some more striking shifts in the pricing of cards, either upward or downward. I think it probably would go upward, and then they'd overreact a little bit, and it would go downward, and then upward and downward. A good example of that is if you looked at the mystery box or mystery boosters that most recently came out. Those started particularly cheap, and the price went up and up and up because they were reprints of really good cards. So they've increased quite a bit in cost because of the valuation of what you're getting in there. All right, that's one loss. Let's see. There was really no chance of me winning with that deck. At least I have an understanding of playing a mono red. And yeah, I heard somebody say mono red was doing really good right about now, which seems weird, certainly, because I don't feel like mono red works very well on the current lineup of Arena, at least. But that just really may be more evidence that I don't know what I'm talking about, which I'll fully admit as far as Magic goes. I could be playing Magic Arena for 2 years straight and I still probably wouldn't know what I'm talking about. I think there's probably a good argument that even for the 4 to 5 years that I played Hearthstone, I don't know if I really knew what I was talking about on the hardest, highest levels. Let's see if this helps. Alright, that makes sense. So finally I know what to do with a red deck. I need to put this card. I bet I don't have it. I need to put this in my mono red deck. Then I can attack with a bunch of 1 mana things. So as far as my back, I don't want to complain about it too much, but it's not healing as fast as one would like, which would be instantaneously. So what happens is if I sit in the chair, I'm pretty much just trapped in the chair. But then you have that secondary problem of, yeah, I'm just wrecking with this deck. So you have the problem of just sitting in the chair being uncomfortable and also not being able to really shift in the chair after it, and then you have to pay the high price of pain when getting out of the chair. I sat for 2 45-minute recordings of Curse of Monkey Island, and this will be my accountability section yesterday, and after that point I was stuck trying to get out of the chair without just falling in the floor in pain. Okay, we got a new card. Before we go and do anything else, let's edit this deck. So calamity, I think, was the word. There we go. I have like 1 of these, so put that in the deck and then get rid of that, and we'll at least know that that's what we're looking for to build a deck around. Let's try Final Adventure now. So yeah, I'm still not doing great. Attempts are making, there's speculation, not from any doctors or anything, that I may have somehow slipped a disc in my spine, which is probably not fixable without surgery. This one would hope that this would just go away and heal itself, and through using massive amounts of dangerous amounts of ice and using ice packs directly on my skin, which could very easily cause frostbite, it does seem to heal it somewhat, or reduce the swelling or reduce the pain somewhat. But yeah, it could be another week, another month, another year, or never. It is slightly improving, so we're moving in the right direction though, so I can say that much. Whenever you cast a creature spell that has adventure, draw a card. If it doesn't need to have gone on adventure first. So okay, that would be useful, but I don't have anything except for that 1 card with adventure. So interesting. This is a new way to draw cards with things, a cheap draw. But how much does that really cost? You're paying 1 mana for a 1/1, and another mana for a 1/1, and then a third mana for a 1/1 that draws 2 cards. That's still probably not too terrible. And odds are probably low that I need to do this. So if we play this and then we do this, we could draw 2 more cards. Interesting. Now that one can't do its thing. Each opponent can't draw than one card each turn. Oh. So I've got to kill this. I've got to kill both of these. Because... oh, and you can only have 1 planeswalker. That's interesting. So I have to kill this before I could even use these adventure things to draw more cards. So they've made a deck that's pretty obviously designed around that idea. Alright, well, we have a lot of news here, and there's not too much else to talk about. I think what we're going to really settle into is, in an effort to just not talk about the virus over and over again, which I think at this point we've probably gone as far as we can with we've probably gone as far as we can with news relating to video games. Like, I could say that Sanjay Patai and Alphabet says they're going to donate some money to something, and there's plenty of other people out there that that are having sales and advertising. There's quite a lot of games that are being given away for free. For instance, the 100% Orange Juice Mario Party clone game on Steam was free. So that was interesting. Let's see. Yeah, in fact, 3 of their games were free, so those were things that were on my wish list. There's also a good collection of just like terrible, uninteresting, not worth having games that are going free. But then there are also people on Steam that are putting their games on sale instead of being charitable about it, which I suppose take your pick at that. So draw a card. I need to get rid of cards. So, I'm gonna go ahead and just decide to attack, which is probably the wrong response. So now we've got to discard a card. Which will discard one of those, I guess. Alright, so let's start going through the news, because I would like to just I'd like to wrap up as fast as reasonable. Like, we're not anywhere close to that, but there really isn't a ton of news right now. It's just kind of games and little things. Although there was a Nintendo Direct that did announce quite a few games coming to the Switch. First, we have a game on Steam called Urban Cards, which they're saying is a roguelike. It looks like it's kind of not even really a card game from the looks of it. From the looks of all the screenshots. Yeah, you're kind of playing cards, but then they're being used to in a almost grid-like fashion instead of, yeah, it looks weird to say the least. Early access, 13.49, English and Spain Spanish. I am a sucker for card games, so I'll put it on the fall list. Single player only probably means it won't succeed too well. Destroy target creature, lose 2 life, and then destroy another target creature to lose 2 life. I feel like I targeted the same creature a couple of times there, but whatever. Just gotta get more things on the field. Okay, now go ahead and just attack this. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Sorry, I'm just wandering off. Mary Skelter final has been announced for the PS4 and Switch. The final of the Dungeon RPG, or finale. I guess that's finale, not final. Of the Dungeon RPG series. I don't think the Mary Skelter games though are particularly good. As much as the screenshots may make it look interesting, it really is just kind of a dungeon crawler with perhaps a slightly better emphasis on having some interesting characters on your side, but some pretty generic monsters that you're fighting otherwise. If this was a series that was on a cell phone, I'd probably give it a lot more slack, but it isn't. So, so that is something to also consider. Let's see. Can we now create a 1/1 white token? And will that create like 3 1/1 white tokens? Yes, it will. Interesting. Let's go ahead and play that. And then let's see. I'm gonna attack with this one on this one, because this one was stopping me from drawing cards. And then this one with this one, because I just want to get rid of all of his planeswalkers. This is going to pretty much eliminate his his ability to play things. And now I should be able to just start attacking directly and hopefully win. So Mary Skelter is from Compile Heart, so maybe this is the final game in a well-known series that they were talking about, instead of Compile Heart ending the Neptunia series, which for better or worse has been a lot more successful, I think, than the Mary Skelter series. I would say I imagine that the dungeon crawler style of game can't be really that good. Like, the dungeon crawling in general now has become completely replaced with gacha games, and you use the gameplay mechanic of dungeon crawling as a crutch to promote and sell more microtransactions. From a graveyard to your hand. Interesting. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do this. And then put this on the field. Then put this on the field. And what I'm gonna do is attack with everything here. And then take this and kill that. And in one turn, get close to winning. Now, this would have been the draw the cards. I guess that's the only thing I can return. So give me another one of those. And then give me that. So that returns like 3 cards to my hand, building up a deck really nicely. Next we have a game on Steam just called Get Out, which looks like a low effort dark screenshot syndrome horror game of some sort. $9.99 English full audio. Absolutely nothing impressive here. So of course that's not making it to the follow list. Most of our news has been from Gamatsu, and that wasn't 100% because of anything I did. Like, still following Gamma Sutra and TechRaptor as the triumvirate of 3 things. I did subscribe to Wario64, and he was tweeting like way too many things on sale and affiliate links. So, yeah, that he was just flooding my Twitter with things on sale that didn't really need to be mentioned. When you look at it from a perspective of like slickdeals.net, games going on sale aren't really good deals until the games are completely free, and then they'll make it to the hot deals section or the front page section. But if something is just 10% off, that's pretty standard. I think what really the case is this kind of is the time in which Japanese games would get more announcements for in general, because there's just less of that. Less concerns in the past couple of weeks of the virus in Japan. They're going to start getting concerned, and just less focus on getting away from E3 announcements now. So yeah, we're gonna get some announcements. Also, the Japanese just love to announce things and announce things. Okay, I don't think that there's really anything I want to do here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and attack with everything. And I should win. If somehow I don't win this, I don't know what would have gone wrong there. This is a fine game. Like, this layout is fine. You get a couple of cards that are kind of decent cards to get that I don't have. But I definitely am not feeling anything special with this gameplay style. And I think for Friday Night Magic, you probably would want some kind of group chat. Like, this is probably a little crazy for me to suggest, considering they don't even really have much of an in-game chat. They just barely implemented that, but a group chat of people playing Friday Night Magic and having, like, matchmaking us together with a group of 10 or 20 people and saying, these are your friends, there's going to be a group chat, we're going to talk and just have fun. If there was, it would take money to do this, but if there was somebody kind of moderating that and even prompting some things, if you had like automated prompts, like what are you guys watching on TV, seen any movies, type things like that, what's your favorite comic book, stuff like that, in like a group chat, something that made it feel somewhat closer to the experience of what I imagine would be if you were sitting next to people. While I'm fine in Magic Arena to mostly simulate the experience of having somebody not talk at all, playing somebody else who doesn't talk at all, just two very serious, very boring Magic players back to back. It's when you talk Friday Night Magic, that's more of a social experience. Of course, then you have the problem of this, but you could experiment with that. Like, the reason why this exists and you're so limited is because they don't want conflict. But you could experiment and say, hey, on Friday Night Magic, all chat goes. You could even say, hey, this is just completely unmoderated chat. You can use the C word, you can use the B word, you can type whatever you want, you can put little emojis of penises in the chat. Like, it's just completely unmoderated craziness. They shouldn't probably link out the spam and links and virus links, but that's about it. Speaking of the C word, I'm playing Scrabble Go, and while that word I am sure is in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, which they claim to be following, it is not allowed to be played. It says it isn't a word. I've actually run into 2 or 3 words that I know are words, and like, trust me, if there's one kind of word I know, it's dirty words, and yet it won't let me play it. But then I've also run into several Scrabble words that you would think would on the same level be not allowed that are allowed, which the inconsistency there is going to kill you. Alright. I don't think I'm going to win here. I'm not sure what the exact strategy even is for this deck. Wolves, perhaps? Moving on. Gamatsu has an article, the action puzzle game Puchido Cluster for PS4 and Switch launches April 2nd in Japan. I imagine... I haven't ever seen a game like this. I don't know how you'd actually play this. I kind of imagine that the Nintendo Direct may have mentioned some Japanese games only, although I would say most of the Nintendo Direct games don't seem to do that. Okay, so this is kind of like a reverse direction Clax. Which that's kind of a reference that nobody would really get either. So yeah, that kind of looks like more of a mobile game, but fast-paced enough, and it might be interesting. It would definitely need a different name to translate it and bring it to the West. They're selling it for 500 yen, which is $5, so not a lot by Japanese standards. See, Gamatsu has a article. The creator of the survival horror game pitch Year of the Ladybug is in talks with experienced producer from Japan. So I haven't seen this pitch before. It seems like it's a creepy ghost girl and floating clone people, which I would assume are supposed to be like representations of a imagined father by this creepy ghost girl, and I imagine you're playing as a survival guy. Let's see what this looks like otherwise. So it seems like it's kind of a pitch more than a comic book or anything else. And for somebody to be in talks really doesn't mean anything. So I would have to say Gematsu is probably scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But there's definitely some ideas that are your standard Japanese weirdo creepy ideas that we haven't seen in a while. There were several in early Xbox days of weird Japanese horror games that came over to the West, and that they really stood out for being something different. I can't remember the name of the one I'm thinking of. It had like Rose in the name, though. Let's just go ahead and play this. And then let's go ahead and decide what we want to do, island or forest. We'll do island. But yeah, being in talks to develop a game like that doesn't really mean anything at all. If anything, I would say his pitch and his idea probably needs to be thought out more for what's being shown, but then a lot might be currently being held back to not spoil the surprise also. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. The Assassin's Creed actor Baker Salim forms a UK studio, Salem, Silver Rain Games. This is weird, to say the least. A actor? Is he the actor of the movie Assassin's Creed? No, he was the Assassin's Creed, probably the first game, so Altair, and World of Warcraft voice actor. He's launched his own company, which is probably a mistake, unless he just had some other expertise. Like, that's really what that's going to come down to, is did he have the chops to be running a business and yet was working as a voice actor? And I would even go as far as a voice actor would probably find to run a voice acting studio. But there is a lot more that you have to know about or generally understand and be capable of being in charge of when running a video game company. On the other hand, if it were, say, a random investor who knows nothing about video games versus a voice actor being an investor and just wanting to be the CEO, I guess I'd prefer the voice actor. Alright, so that's we're now done with Friday Night Magic. It doesn't feel special. That's what I'm going to say on that. It's nice to get a couple of cards, certainly, but it doesn't feel anything like Friday Night Magic, and I feel like people that are used to playing Friday Night Magic are going to find that to be a particularly boring experience. Also, it didn't ask me at any point to take a screenshot or something here that would share the results to get this unique card sleeve. So yeah, I don't even know how that would work. Let's just click on it. Here's the article. Friday Night Magic at home with your local store. It didn't seem like there was any way to really group your local store together, so I have no idea what store would be most local to me. They want everything to go through Discord. Apparently there'll be a historic brawl also, and then an all access on April 3rd. Let's see. So I'd have to go to locators.wizards.com. And let's see. play the event, take a screenshot of the event, which it doesn't tell you how to do that at all. Then go to your store and share it. And if you share it, you'll get sleeves that look something like this, but not guaranteed to look like that. So, yeah. And then undoubtedly, if you're going to do things like that, you're definitely going to have people that are always going to be left out on the sleeves. Alright, we need to play, I guess, blue, which we don't even have a standard blue deck. We have a blue-white deck that I think was actually winning, so something to be said there. Next, we have a game on Steam called Collective, the community-created card game, which honestly, having a community create a card game is just insanity. I kind of like this art style. Like, this looks different. It's almost like a Art Nouveau French art style in the face. Like, interesting. But then the rest of this seems kind of random and just nothing. It's early access, it's free to play, but if you want all cards forever pass, you're paying $30. Otherwise, there's in-app purchases, which you still may have to spend in-app purchases for other things, and it's English full audio. Again, I guess I'll put up card games on the fall list just to see if they became really popular, but almost certainly that wouldn't happen. Also, I would say this card game in particular is particularly vertical for some reason, as if they were trying to put it on a cell phone and they just didn't really know the right way to do that. And these heroes are huge. So, those are also red flags. I guess in opposite of that, we have a green flag here. Netflix Castlevania series season 4 has been announced from Gamatsu, which, of course, it really had to happen. Even in this announcement, they're showing a item that was kind of left as just a plot hole. The item didn't really play a big role, but it was an important item in season 3. Yeah, season 4, I think I pretty much said when I watched it, totally just left itself up for a next season. And I guess Netflix is starting to be a little bit more willing to have series that have 4 or maybe even 5 seasons. Otherwise, Castlevania is going to have to be very careful to wrap up itself a lot better than it did in season 3. Otherwise the story is not going to work. It also is totally true that the Castlevania seasons are extremely short. They're like 6 1-hour episodes. Maybe if you could break them into half episodes, they really don't have a good point in which they could be broken into half-hour episodes, but if you could, you'd get 12. It's very far from a standard like 26 episode season that you would have made in the old days. Yeah. So yeah, that kind of obviously needed to happen. Otherwise, but you're still in the same position, really. You're still in the dangerous position that until all of Castlevania is done, until they tell all the tales that they can tell, and wrap it up, there's no great reason to watch more than season 1 and season 2. Season 2 wraps it up fairly well. And so now season 3 and season 4 kind of have to resolve something and wrap it up fairly well again. And then every 2 seasons, I suppose, if they can get 2 more seasons guaranteed, might be something of interest. I guess we'll activate an ability to draw a card since we can. TechRaptor has an article here. PlayStation download speed is now limited in the United States. Everybody is limiting everything. I heard that by default now, YouTube is defaulting to 480p, which I really haven't noticed that too much on anything, but mostly that's been because I've been running 3 or 4 things on my phone at the same time. I've been very often lately having YouTube, Destiny Child, and a second game all running on my cell phone on top of each other as pop-up windows. So I'm just multitasking to the max. And that's because I want to hear what YouTube is saying, and I don't really care to watch too much of what's on the video on YouTube. And Destiny Child is just playing itself, and I'm just using up the daily stamina. And then the third game, or the third app, is usually Scrabble or something. That I'm just experimenting with those as I'm being bored and stuck in bed more than anything else. I've also been watching a lot of Amazon Prime. It doesn't have anything to do with video games, but it's anime related. I watched Arrow Manga Sensei, which was a controversial, slightly popular anime a couple years back, and I think the controversy is a little bit overblown. Maybe the manga is a lot more lewd than the show was, or at least the way it was shown on Amazon Prime. Because while the running premise and gag is that you have this older stepbrother who finds out that he's been working in secret with his younger sister in making an Arrow manga, which is a manga comic book that is lewd, Arrow, like Eros, the Greek god. It's not as extreme as you might take it, because lewd does not mean nudity in Arrow manga, and censorship laws in Japan wouldn't show anything anyways. So Arrow manga is kind of a in-between step between what would be a romantic comedy and a porn. So something in the middle there. And so the running gag is that you have this little girl that has this really dirty mind, and she's drawing these kind of dirty pictures, but she kind of doesn't really know, and that's what's revealed at the end of the series, is she kind of doesn't even really know what she's doing. And the brother doesn't really have any romantic interest in her. If anything, the longer story in it is that both of them, both the stepbrother and the sister, have lost their mother. So 2 mothers died, and it has really affected them horribly. And the underlying story is how they're pulling themselves out from under that, and trying to become successful in their writing aspirations and drawing aspirations, and be a couple, not be a couple, but be successful in life. The only thing that is slightly controversial, and that is going to be the stomping point for a lot of people, and I imagine this was the thing with the reviewers too, that probably only read or watched the first couple episodes, is yes, it is the anime is drawn with the moe art style, so these are younger looking girls, quite a few of them, that show up, and yes, they are on rare occasions, like once per episode, you're seeing maybe his stomach drawn in from kind of a male gaze perspective type thing. It's drawn with that lewd gaze, certainly, but it's not terrible. It really isn't. Like, I would have no problem with tricking a 16 or 17-year-old boy into watching something like that. If I had a 16 or 17-year-old child and they said they want to watch it, I'd be like, sure, watch it, because you're not going to see anything, and then at the end of the 12 episodes, you're gonna have accidentally watched a kind of romantic comedy, but more of a just comedy in general. Certainly there's a lot worse on the internet these days, and real nudity is plentiful available, and that is true for a lot of animes. Like, these things are still made to be on TV. They're still often just teases. They may have been somewhat provocative in the 80s or 90s, but now they're relatively tame. In comparison, I also watched a like 1980s movie called Sorcerers on Amazon Prime, and it's like a sword and sandals western movie that is mostly in existence only to show topless women. So you definitely saw a lot more in that than I did in Uramanga Sensei. I actually think it's a pretty good story. It's kind of a touching story, and they like to do that too. Certainly, writers, they like to dare you to read or watch something more controversial, stick through it, and you'll be rewarded with something you didn't expect. So yeah, that's what I've been wasting my time with while I've been stuck in bed, watching terrible movies and decent anime. It's kind of nice to get back to watching anime, though, in general, because it's been a real long time, maybe a decade or two, and I may decide to go back and watch some of the more 90s ones that were my style back when I was big into watching them, instead of watching some of the newer things. Alright, we got a victory. I don't know if we needed a victory, but I guess we always need a victory. Yeah, I need to also continue to speed up and wrap up here. We have Dear Villagers on Steam listed because they are doing the stay-at-home sale. So, see if we can click on this. Stay-at-home sale, they're selling, instead of giving away anything, they're selling a normal lost phone, another lost phone, Away, Baffle, Bury Me My Love, Dead in Vinland, Edge of Eternity, Hoover, Old School Musical, Splasher. None of those games are particularly amazing. Maybe you'd be fine getting these two games, the Lost Phone series, for $1.19. But also, in this perhaps a dangerous time, maybe you are just better off saving your money and not buying extra games. That probably is the smarter move. There are also a decent amount of free things getting thrown out there to keep you busy. And it is important to mention, no amount of video games are going to really keep you content. I have never seen or met anybody that plays more games for longer stretches than I did at one time, at least. I mean, I certainly recall potentially playing for like 12 hours or so straight. But even at that, that's not going to keep you entertained for a week or 2 or 3 or 4, however long this whole self-isolation really takes. You're gonna want to take some breaks. You're gonna want to do some different things. So I would definitely suggest people be more varied in their entertainment. Play video games, catch up on the games you wanted to play in the past, work on that Steam backlog or that video game backlog in general, but also take a break and maybe read a book and maybe just take a walk if you can take a walk, or just go outside in the backyard if you can do that. Like try to keep it varied. Learn how to cook. Now would be a great time for anybody that doesn't know how to cook to learn how to cook. Clean out your pantry, organize your shelves, things like that. Because no one thing is going to keep you that entertained for as long as this is. Which also points out that any like long-term space or long-term assignments on a submarine or long-term space missions would drive most people crazy, and that's what all evidence seems to point to. So until we do have the I can freeze you or put you asleep for 6 months straight technology, which we don't seem to have at the moment, that people really just don't know what to do with themselves. Yeah, and I guess that would be one way of solving this whole issue of social isolating, is that if we could put people to sleep, it would solve a lot of problems. There was definitely a sci-fi story where people would be put asleep for like 24 hours and then wake up for 24 hours because there was just not enough jobs and not enough resources. Let's see. Moving on, we have the Elite Dangerous Fleet Carrier is a game changer for rich players. So apparently there's a really, really expensive thing you can get in Elite Dangerous. Although I would say, if I'm recalling correctly, Elite Dangerous is a game that's just never going to be finished. And they've just been selling in-game content like crazy and making tons of money off of a game that really isn't finished and really isn't anything that anybody would want to play, or should want to play at least. Tech Raptor has an article here. One lonely outpost takes farming to the stars. So this is a Stardew Valley game in space. Which, okay, that might be something. But if you're in space, that also kind of limits the number of people you would imagine you'd run into. But it seems like there are a decent collection of people you're going to interact with. The name actually doesn't make a lot of sense, because one lonely outpost you would imagine would be you completely alone, but then that's kind of a bad way to design a game and tell a story. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Sony says COVID-19 won't impact the PS5 launch yet. Okay. I don't think anybody is really believing that, but we'll take it as said. Why not? Next, we have a game on Steam called One Rose. I don't know how you'd pronounce that, actually. One Ross. It looks like it's an asset flip game, if I was to guess. Experience a surreal adventure filled with many puzzles and psychedelic visions. There might be something here, but I imagine it's not. $6.39 English and Polish. I'll put it on the follow list. We'll see if there actually is a game there. Play that. Equal to my devotion to blue. And then go ahead and attack. I guess there are some decent puzzles being shown here on the video. And in all fairness, I often don't look at the videos of a lot of games. So, there probably have been some games that I have dismissed as asset flip games that actually have a little bit more polish to it. I guess it doesn't really change my opinion, though it still just goes on the follow list. I make this guy discard cards. Gamma Sutra has an article here. GameStop ends its 2019 with sales down year over year, but quote, increased financial flexibility. So the end of the year reporting. Of course, we've also heard that they are going to shut down 300 stores, and they have only 2,300 stores, so you're talking over 10% shutdown of stores. That being said, I still don't think we're anywhere close to GameStop having too many stores anyway, or having too few stores anyways. They've always had a bad system in which they have definitely put a lot of emphasis on having smaller stores in more random locations, and I just don't think that's the right move. We've seen, I've seen grocery stores kind of do the same thing where the number of small grocery stores was really high, and that was the fad for quite a while. But now it is much more back to making superstores and bigger stores. If anything, grocery stores having a lot of small stores, and Walmart, like neighborhood markets that are just the grocery store parts, having small markets has a lot more to do with the size of the inventory and the items than anything else. It makes a lot less sense when you're talking video games. So yeah, I would be way happier if there was half as many GameStops and they were twice as big. I still probably wouldn't go into them, so I don't know what really brings somebody like me or an average video game player into a GameStop, other than the fact that stores being shut down actually might bring me into it. Like, unfortunately, the Switch seems to be sold out everywhere. That being said, I still might decide to go to a going out of business sale if there's actually something like that at the GameStops that are being shut down. I imagine, though, that won't be the case. I imagine they will just ship everything out of that store into another store. So I imagine very little will be on sale, if anything. So yeah, there's probably not a deal to have there. Now, if all the GameStops were going to go out of business, and it was like the Toys R Us going out of business, then I'd definitely show up and try to get some deals. But that's pretty much the only case I would do that. I'm just gonna lose no matter what. You do this. You do this. It'll save you one turn. And that's it. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. A secret Doom Eternal pistol can be unlocked on PC. Let's see, but you're going to have to cheat. Let's see. So you have to use console commands with cheat engine. which seems to be the popular thing. I think the general idea too is that they got rid of the pistol as a gun, because there was a pistol in the original Doom 2016 reboot. I think they got rid of it because it was just a slow gun that didn't really matter. I definitely recall there being a lot of grinding and a lot of gameplay with that original, with the pistol in 2016, and then the pistol was absolutely useless at the end of the game. So it is a smart removal, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put it back in, like, here's the pistol in New Game Plus if you want to do that, or an ultra hardcore mode, or pistol only run mode, something that you would want people who had already played the game and perfected the game to play, not something you want new players to deal with. Let's see, moving on, we have a game on Steam called For the Warp, which looks like it is a space game. It's being tagged as a roguelike. It's not a fly around space game though, it's more like FTL, and I did actually enjoy FTL, although it was super difficult, so I'm going to put this on the follow list. It's discounted to $13.49 English only. Might be a little too expensive there. And of course I would have to get out of early access. We're going to lose anyway, so I'll just let him attack. Way Forward has new details and a release date for Shanti and the Seven Sirens. So they've got an article here. It's going to be $29.99 for console PC. A release date May 28th. So yeah, I am now set to start playing the Shantae games. Shantae is the right way to pronounce that, I think. Alright, we just need to play one more game to get the 2 daily quests done, and then we just need victories. We've got the weekly victory already done. I could play more off screen, certainly, as I'm being bored later today, and try and get up to 15 victories, but I imagine we won't do that on screen. We have a game here called Lovehammer for the 400,000, the Butlerian Crusade. This is a name confusion game if I've ever seen one. Either that or it's supposed to be a parody, because it is usually Warhammer 40k, not 400,000, 400k. If this is supposed to be a parody, though, it's not a very good one. It probably is a parody, like, because it's supposed to be like a lewd parody. Here you've got a girl bent over as a shield. But yeah, I don't know if I was really into Warhammer 40k. I don't know if I'm looking for any kind of lewd parody of it though, because if anything, Warhammer, the love and the romance there is for the love of war and strategy and violence. I don't know if there's any romance story that's ever even been attempted to be told in the Warhammer universe. So yeah, this game is early access, $14.99. It's English and Russian. It feels like it's probably a bit of a troll game, and it's way too expensive for what it's offering, and it is also trying to do name confusion, whereas if you were going to do something like that, you probably should say, give it its own name. So call it Lovehammer, a Warhammer 40k parody, or an unofficial Warhammer 40k parody, or something along that line. That I should have played this. I could have done something way better than just playing that. So yeah, that's not really not really an honest approach, or an honest enough approach in my opinion, to doing something like that. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Project Heartbeat, which looks like it's a rhythm game based around pushing the buttons on a controller. Which, while I do kind of like that idea, the actual art and aesthetic to this doesn't look amazingly great. It still is a rhythm issue, and there's no real great way of knowing how you're supposed to push these buttons. It kind of feels like you could just mash buttons over and over again and it would work anyways, because you need to hit all of them at some point. Let's play that and play that. So yeah, Project Heartbeat is early access, discounted to $11.99 in English full audio only, which also is a bit of a red flag considering how the music seems to be J-pop style games. It even says it is inspired by games like Project Diva and Clone Hero, which really just tells you should buy those games instead. I don't think rhythm game fans are wanting for more rhythm games. They're probably wanting for more rhythm songs in their existing games. Next, we have a game on Steam called Sunrise 7, which looks like it's a platformer. It's a little bit too neon, in my opinion. Yeah, doesn't look like there's too much going on. It feels like they're trying to do an art style here, but it just seems like they don't have enough game here. It's $4.99 English only, full audio. Yeah. I just don't think this is enough of an art style. You could probably have had the accents of neon with some more details drawn on top of that, and that might have worked better, but this guy's gonna kill me if I don't block him. But yeah, I think that's a pass. Alright. -1. Yeah, I cannot do anything. Unfortunately, he managed to buff this guy up very highly. Gamasutra has an article how Mario Kart influenced Nintendo's fighting games Armed. This is an article from 2018, so they're just re-promoting old articles again. And I guess if Gamasutra wasn't doing that right now, though, they'd basically have no articles. Basically, none of the journalists are working, and nobody's putting out any press releases, so very little to say. Here we have a game on Steam called Hyperwheel Overdrive, which looks just a little bit low polygon-y and asset flippy. It seems like it's trying to do both a racing game and a shooting game in one thought. It's early access, discounted to $17.09, which is too expensive. English full audio, and that graphic just looks bad. So this guy has trample, so he's gonna do a massive amount of damage anyways. Gamasutra has an article here. Mojang shakes up its augmented reality game Minecraft Earth, which I don't even know if I knew was out yet, to adapt to shelter in place play, which is kind of the same thing that that Pokemon Go tried to do, although particularly Minecraft Earth falls apart if you're not walking around, because the buildings are supposed to be very location based, so that they probably would have to have it so that you simulate like you're walking around in different places. See, they're upping the spawn rate for in-game resources and giving players a way to take part in the game's adventures from the comfort of their own home. I haven't done anything with Minecraft Earth. I didn't even know it existed, obviously. Oh, by the way, the reason why none of the free educational things they were giving away in the Minecraft marketplace were things that I couldn't get to install. A is partially because of my ad blocker, but B, it also is because I only have Java Edition. So anything in there's just like no marketplace support at all in the Java Edition, which is probably for the better, because then you don't have to pay for content. You can just download maps and things. But it does mean that there probably are a few interesting things on the marketplace that are either no longer available for Java or never were available for Java. But yeah, Java Edition still is probably the best version to get. There we go. So we got 1500 gold and 1000 XP, and the card we already had, and we're at rank 89, and we're probably a little low on gold, like considering how the next expansions are going to go. Standard ranked now. We're going to try and actually win and try to get up to platinum. And I don't know if I'm paying enough attention to do that, but whatever. Open Critic has an article here. Playdead teases its next game, signs a publishing deal with Epic. Epic has kind of come out in general and said that they're going to be publishers for games if you want them to be publishers for games. They are doing a kind of record deal label offering of 50% of all the profits after they recoup all of their costs, which really sounds terrible, actually, on the thought of it. But if you can't get publishing funding, if you can't get funding in the first place, it's probably your only option. But like record labels, the scam there that people have to understand is they run up the costs quite a bit. So, for instance, they'll buy you lunch, is an example I heard, and then the cost of them doing catering probably is, say, $20 for lunch, let's say, and then they charge you, say, $200 for it, and they're just charging it to you, and you're not really getting a bill or knowing anything, so you just never make any money. This is the same math and shenanigans and just straight up fraud. There really is no other way to put it that happens in movies and TV all the time, where at best you're getting dollar paychecks 20 years later, but you're never really making any money. It's not uncommon for a publisher to want to pay back their costs in sales, but it is somewhat unrealistic and unfair to not pay basically anything up front. So you have a scenario here where somebody could make a hyper successful game and they won't see any of the profit from that for a very long time, like decades, if ever. And that means as a developer you won't get any money returned to make your next game. So your initial outing, even if you make a hyper successful game, very well may fail. It also means that you won't have any money to really feed yourself after the game launches. You probably will get some stipends, some amount of money to pay your bills and feed yourself while developing the game. But once that game is out, that's when the paychecks stop coming. Publishers are kind of like manipulative bank loaners, loan sharks, basically. It's really kind of loan sharking. And having Epic in particular be involved with that and being the company that's giving the loan is dangerous, because now you have the developer of the engine they would like you to use charging you a license to use the engine, a license that includes a percentage of all the sales of all of the game. In every scenario I've seen, that's how that breaks down. So if you use the Unreal Engine, you are ending up owing them some, like, I think it's somewhere around 20% of the sales in perpetuity for that game. And then you put it on the Epic Game Store, and you maybe are paying a small fee for it being on the Epic Game Store, and then you're paying them as publishers. So you've got this kind of vertical integration in which if Epic decides they don't like you, they could pull you from your store, they could pull the license to use Unreal, maybe they could do that, and or the publisher can just screw you one way or the other. And so it does create this dangerous scenario of having a mega publisher, an EA, another Activision, Blizzard, another company like that's really just going to be not good for the long-term health of the video game industry. And yeah, if I was a game developer, I would definitely think about either doing Steam Direct and self-funding, thus I don't have to deal with a publisher, or going with even EA or Activision or Ubisoft or some other publishing companies, or Sony, or going with public grants. That'd probably be a decent way to do it too, if you can get them, instead of going with Epic. There is also an important factor that you will be absolutely pressured to only publish on the Epic Store if your publisher is also Epic. So, and that's what's been the complaint or the statement over and over again, is that, oh, it's the publisher's decision where it's published. Well, if Epic is the publisher, guess what? They're going to decide to publish on their own storefront. It is highly unlikely that we will ever see anything published by Epic appear at the same time on Steam or the Windows 10 store or something like that, although the Windows 10 store is more likely to happen than Steam. Moving on, OpenCritic has an article here. Remedy signs 2 deals with Epic Games. So the Finnish studio behind Control and Alan Wake has signed two game agreement with Epic Games. The new projects will be multi-platform, which likely means it's not Sony, despite months of rumors suggesting the company tried to acquire Remedy sometime in the past year. So, okay. Seems to me like that was another deal that happened. That being said, I am not super interested in what Remedy has to offer. Like, I've played the Alan Wake game and I played Control, and I didn't particularly love either one of them. And I think there was just way too much hype around Control. So, yeah, I'm not really interested in Remedy's next game with any odds. Also, the odds are high that that they seem to have a good game, then a bad game, then a good game, then a bad game at Remedy. So if Control was the good game, the next game that they make is probably a bad game. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. The Namcot collection has been announced for Switch. It feels like Namco changed their name to Namcot or something. Bandai Namco is selling the Namcot collection, which includes some games. I'm not sure if this is going to come to the West per se, but it probably will. I couldn't imagine a good reason why it wouldn't. But yeah, that's another announcement for a Switch game, which we'll see quite a lot of those if I can get through all this news. I'm wearing out my voice, which is almost a good sign at this point, because it's telling me that I'm actually able to talk and I'm not just drawn out and energyless. That being said, the length of streams are not as long as they once were, but that's not a bad thing either. I don't like the fact that these streams tend to take 3 hours to either get the daily quest done or get all the news covered. Next we have a game on Steam called HVOR, which looks like a top-down twin stick shooter game with dark screenshot syndrome. It's been a while since we've seen a top-down twin stick shooter. It's early access, English is not supported, it's free only, and it's Russian only. So yeah, this is what I would probably classify as a Russian low effort game. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Joyfest Episode 1 Martin's Secret Recipe. This looks like a point and click adventure game of some sort. I don't know if I really want to get too deep into some of these point and click adventure games after playing Curse of Monkey Island and finding that to be pretty annoying. It really is just going to come down to whether they are well made games or not and how well they are reviewed. There's certainly an element to be said around, I might have finally just decided to resolve myself to saying that Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis is just the pinnacle and the end all be all of point and click adventure games, and I'm just not in the position anymore where I want to play anything else. Deponia, or Daedalic point and click adventure games, I think I might be done with those too. I may have finally burnt myself out of them. Like, they're an acquired taste, I think, that you probably need to limit your intake on. But yeah, Joyfus is $14.99, English with full audio. Again, just put it on the follow list. I need to block this guy. Block. I think I missed an opportunity to use my witch's oven before. Just go ahead and play this. Play this. And then guess if I don't attack with this, I should be better off. So just no attack. Gamatsu has an article here. Gnosia is coming to the Switch on April 30th in Japan. This was first released for the PS Vita in June 2019, which is weird, certainly, to say that there was something coming out on the Vita in June 2019. I haven't heard of this game at all. Seems like they're kind of twins or split personalities here. A kind of sweet girl with a heart under her eye, and then kind of a crazy girl with a skull under her eye. tattoo type sticker and her tongue out. Let's see if there's anything here in this trailer that gives us a better idea. I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a straight up visual novel. Yeah, it looks kind of roughly animated, but it is definitely going for a different art style, very bright and colorful. This is the right way to do neon if you are going to do colorful, instead of just having it be too bright for the color palette, just and very unvaried with black backgrounds. That's typically how most games with neon in them at all look. Yeah, it's not tagged as a visual novel, but I would definitely call it a visual novel. Some kind of something. And very weird looking characters. Alien futuristic characters, which is a nice idea. This guy's just gonna wreck me. He's gonna try and wreck me every time. So I'm gonna have to try and wreck him. Remember, I am trying to actually get victories here. There we go. Next, we have a game on Steam called Bonefire, which is an RPG according to the tags. Can I look at a game like this and not just immediately dismiss it? Because this art doesn't look terrible, but then when you look at the entirety of the screenshots, it looks to me like it's probably just that. And if this was a mobile game where you were moving along a map and just doing fight after fight after fight, and it was kind of just like an idle game, I'd be somewhat interested in it. But since it's a PC game, I would imagine I would want to see more variety in the landscape and the enemies and the layout. This is also $16.99 English full audio. I think I have to say no to that. Like, that's way too expensive for what they're showing me. So I'm just going to pass on it. Even though it doesn't look horrible, and most of the time we are passing on incredibly horrible looking garbage, that price just counter sold me. Like, convinced me not to buy. Let's keep on playing. I'm just hoping they will actually fix the audio over the weekend, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. We may have to try and figure something else out. Otherwise, you know what I might do? So everybody for a loop, I'll launch Hearthstone, have the Hearthstone music playing in the background, and then play Magic that way. I guess that would work. That'd be silly, but it would be a solution instead of just looping the same song over and over again. Next, we have a TechRaptor article. Crash Team Racing Update adds a ton of new content. Okay, good for people who are playing Crash Team Racing. Just want to get that information out. We have here a game called Unbound Worlds Apart Prologue. It's rated positively. Looks like it's a platformer adventure game. It looks interesting enough for a follow. It's free to play, the prologue is. English full audio. The actual game, though, is coming soon. Also, take note here, you can click a button to add it to the wish list, but you can't click a button to put it on the follow list, which is really where it should go. Be nice if I had a direct button there. Alright. Next we have a game on Steam called Spirit Fighters, which seems like more of a tech demo than anything else. They've got some asset flip characters and they're trying to make a fighting game, and they aren't anywhere close to it actually being good quality. And in all fairness, a 3D fighting game is practically something impossible to make without a ton of experience and funding on it. This is $5.24 discounted English and German. Obviously not going to make it to the wish list or the follow list. Come on. Now we can do this twice. Now that we have 2 Witches Oven. But in all fairness, unless I get Bola Citadel fairly quickly and succeed with Bola Citadel, I'm going to lose. There is too much reliance on Bola Citadel in this deck. It needs a couple more strategies, a couple more ideas. Alright, TechCrafter has an article here. Avoid the sun and survive in Last Oasis. This apparently is a new game that's coming out. Screenshots look interesting. Looks like they might put some polish on it. It's coming out March 26th in early access on 2020. Once it comes out of early access, if it still is a game worth mentioning, then I'll be interested. Gamatsu has an article here. Pro Yaku Famitsu 2020 announced for Switch. This is a Japanese baseball game, obviously. Let's see if the trailer gives us a kind of better idea. It feels like the Nintendo Direct was mostly about announcing Japanese games. Yeah, this looks fine for a Switch game, not particularly great for a baseball game. TechRaptor has an article. The coronavirus threatens the UK National Video Game Museum's future. Let's see. They launched a Just Giving page. I didn't even know that was a website. But apparently they have no money and they want money. Okay. I feel like this is one of those instances where it's a great example that museums should be funded by public grants, because or at least temporarily in this case funded by public grants. I guess if there was a museum out there that nobody wanted to visit, it probably should just fail and get shut down. But a lot of what a museum is doing is archiving important historical items and artifacts and information, like a library. So maybe they should just have public funding in general. But yeah, with people definitely not wanting to go to a place where a bunch of kids would be running around, I imagine museums and amusement parks and things like that are struggling horribly. But then on the other hand, a lot of those museums, zoos, amusement parks are kind of garbage anyways, and they were charging people way too much. Like, I imagine had Disney World or Disneyland, any of those theme parks, been saving the massive amounts of profits they were making, they should be able to stay in business even without being open for quite a while. But I imagine that's not how it went. I imagine it lined the pockets of a lot of people instead. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Shiren the Wanderer, the Tower of Fortune, and the Dice of Fate Plus announced for Switch. Looks like JRPG games. And well, the overlay art looks impressive. If this is actually going to play, I think the actual game is not much of anything. Yeah, the character art's fine, but it still is just kind of a JRPG. I don't know how many people in Japan really want to play old school 8-bit looking JRPGs on their Switch. Maybe there's a lot of people that are nostalgic and older that want to do that, or maybe there's kind of nobody. Like, it'd be interesting to see how well those kinds of games actually sold. Moving on, Momotaro Dentetsu Showa Heisei Reiwa Mo Taiben launches this winter. I know Showa Heisei and Reiwa are all eras of different emperors. And I think the latest 3. So this is probably three generations of some kind of game. It looks like it's a kind of board game, like a Mario Party. No, it's a train game. Resource management. Well, this is distinctively too strategic for something that I think would come to the West. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely not coming to the West. Let's see. Let's start covering just the news, and then we'll get back to games if we still have it. And I'm just falling down gold tier, so I'm gonna stick at gold tier 2 and lock it in, because we have 3 days and I don't want to fall down to gold tier 3. So no more standard ranked. Instead we'll just play this and try to get victories. Next, Gematsu has an article, Ninjala launches May 27th as free to play. Ninjala being kind of like a Splatoon looking game for the Switch. Maybe not exclusive. Yeah. It's more of a direct attack, running on walls, Splatoon idea. Interesting. Yeah, that actually looks like that is a good idea to take what was being limited somewhat by the water squirter concept, and by being a mostly 2D flat platform. Well, it's a 3D platform, but a flat platform, and adding a lot more verticality to it. So yeah, it looks like Ninjala, as long as it gets an audience and gets enough funding as a free-to-play game, might be the next thing. Next big thing. Also, it probably is a little bit less violent than Fortnite, so I could see that being successful too, for parents that are tired of seeing their kids play Fortnite and for one reason or another. Gematsu has an article here, Ring Fit Adventure Rhythm Game Mode update is now available. Move the beat of the Ring Fit Adventure and popular Nintendo game songs. So it is like a music mode inside of Ring Fit Adventure, which is a great combination in my opinion, because Ring Fit Adventure is a little bit one note, being around exercising, and now having a different focus while still kind of having you exercise is interesting. Catherine Full Body is coming to the Switch on July 7th. This is the like remake continuation, not really sequel. It's kind of a remake of the Catherine series. It has the third character in it, the transgendered character, or however they wanted to describe it. So yeah, there's still a decent amount of adult games coming out for the Switch, which is still pretty surprising. It really isn't a kid's game. It's weird though for them to announce any of these games when we know that the Switch is basically sold out everywhere. And I definitely didn't get a Switch, and I definitely wanted to get a Switch. I couldn't really justify it, but I could probably justify it very nicely right about now, since I am being stuck in bed. Anyways, now would be the perfect time to have the Switch and play through some Nintendo games that I couldn't stream anyways. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, and it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Probably past Christmas at minimum. Moving on, XCOM 2 Collection is coming to Switch on May 9th. So yeah. Well, with the exception of the Nintendo Direct, that's about it. Yeah, I was reading another article there about Shantae coming out on May 28th, I think is what it said. Here we have a game on Steam called Bloodlust 2 Nemesis that I accidentally clicked on, so we might as well look at it. It's rated very positive as a hack and slash game. Looks like it's a horror vampire game. Alright, I'll put it on the follow list. $12.74. The first Bloodlust Shadow Hunter came out in 2015. And let's see, it's English full audio. So yeah. I really am not in a position where I need more horror slash vampire games in my life, but because there's always too many of them anyways getting made. But if it's good, it's good. Well, I can't do anything else. Moving on, BioShock The Collection is coming to the Switch on May 29th. It includes BioShock, BioShock 2, and BioShock Infinite. One would assume it also includes each of the DLC there. So it's actually BioShock Remastered, BioShock 2 Remastered, and BioShock Infinite, which I think some of the things in the remasters weren't particularly loved. They made a few little changes that irritated people. I would hope that also includes all the DLC for BioShock 2, but probably not the multiplayer for BioShock 2. I'd hope it includes... I don't think there was any DLC for BioShock 1, but I would hope that it includes all of the BioShock Infinite DLC, which, if you call it the Complete Edition, you would have to kind of assume that it does. On the other hand, maybe it doesn't have the multiplayer again for BioShock Infinite. So I really would have to question how many people are actually playing BioShock Infinite's multiplayer. So yeah, that would be kind of weird. Minecraft has a new snapshot and they're adding new content. Pretty interesting new content. They're adding more to the Nether. They've created these new creatures that you can put a saddle on and ride, and they walk in lava. So now you have a item that's like nether wart on a stick or something that you can hold in front of them, like a carrot on a stick would be used with a pig in a saddle, to make them have you walk through lava uh, lava lakes, which there's tons and tons of lava lakes in the Nether, and you often had to work around that. There's also a lodestone that you can use in any realm, whether the overworld or the regular world or any biome or anything, that will make compasses always point to the lodestone. So you now have a way of setting a location without just typing in numbers and coordinates and going to the F3 menu. And I think maybe there's some new kind of elements. And blue ice, I believe, also does something with lava to make some new kinds of paths. So you could potentially make a flying machine that would make a path in lava too. So interesting additions. Also, I believe these were the additions that they did a survey for. It's like, what biome do you want to see the most improvement on? And this is what they came up with. And it really isn't a ton of new stuff, but it does help certainly fix kind of the lacking of variety and the lack of things to do in the Nether. Still, I imagine a lot of people will only use the Nether as a place to fast travel and nothing else. So yeah, I'm not sure what they really wanted what they could really do to improve it that much. There's nothing that's amazingly positive in the Nether, and that's the problem. It's just this really dangerous location with nothing good in it. Whereas probably wouldn't be terrible if there was something very, very valuable there. If there was just diamonds, diamond blocks, or something like the elytra in the end, gives you a lot of reason to go back to the end. Otherwise, you'd have no reason to go to the end either. Yeah. Moving on, TechCraft has an article, Half-Life Alyx launched with a secret non-VR developer mode, which is interesting. I heard some numbers, I couldn't quote them to you, but a considerable amount of people watching people stream Half-Life Alyx, and considerably fewer people actually playing Half-Life Alyx because of how expensive the VR headsets are. But other than that, it seems like it's a major success. And good for it. VR needed a major success. Half-Life as a series needed a major success. My hope would be at some point there would be a way to play that without VR and have maybe a lesser experience but some kind of experience there. Or that the success of Half-Life Alyx would just push people at Valve to make standard Half-Life games. The danger now is that they will just say, we'll make more Half-Life games, but they're always going to be in VR. So you're screwed if you don't buy a $600 VR headset. Like that would really suck. It'd be better, in my opinion, if they said, we're making a new Half-Life game and it will be a traditional 3D game, and it will support VR, but it won't require VR. That's what I'd like to hear him say. Let's see. Moving on, Gematsu has the same article here. Remedy Entertainment signs a publishing deal for the two next generation titles, one AAA title and one smaller scale title. So a little bit more information from that headline. Let's see. Gematsu has the Iku Tensen Extra Burst debut trailer, which I did not realize that Iku Tensen was still a thing. This is the anime I was talking about maybe a week ago, where it's fighting anime girls that are supposed to, I think, represent like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms characters, somewhat loosely. Very surprising that it's still popular enough. But yeah, this is pretty much a nothing game, though. It's a lewd anime girl series that will just be a gacha game on your cell phone. Unfortunately, the beta is available right now, but not outside of Japan. I was actually willing to give it a chance because I thought, heck, I'm not doing anything, and this would be the time to check something like that out and get in on the ground floor. But I don't know if it even is going to come to the West. Well, because it may not be that popular as a series nowadays. It was a decently popular as a cheesecake series when it first came out, but that's about it. That's about all you can say. It came and then it was forgotten for the next thing that was available. Gamatsu has an article here. Nippon Ichi Software announces a horror visual novel called Yoru Tomoshu for the PS4 and Switch. So, okay. Looks like a horror visual novel. Like, typically when you see a outfit like this, which looks like a school uniform, that tends to imply to me that it's more of a Catholic religious school uniform than a Japanese uniform, because the Japanese uniform are much more along the lines of a sailor style uniform and tend to have jackets, tend to have a lot shorter skirts, so that style looks very different. They tend to be more fashionable. They tend to have the symbol of the school. They they just tend to look a lot more extravagant than this does. And certainly if you're going to have a horror game series, then setting it in a more religious school environment would be potentially spookier, like a Catholic school. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Report the Nintendo Switch has now outsold the Wii in Japan. I think it's probably outsold the Wii in general. So yeah, the Switch is extremely popular, although also it's worth mentioning that they are effectively merging two separate audiences, because they're merging their handheld consoles with their home consoles. So instead of now buying a Nintendo 3DS and a Wii or Wii U, you're just buying a Switch. And then they sold it on that way, and then they pulled a switcheroo in the Switch Lite, which is effectively, again, just a mobile console. But at the very least, it's the same games. It would have been really nice if NES games played on Game Boy and Game Boy games played on the NES backwards and forwards. And they did, but it took a lot of extra accessories to get them to work. And it wasn't a smooth, easy transition. Moving on, Health Scholars is hiring a technical artist in Colorado. The U.S. jobless claims for the first week was up above 3 million. So people may be claiming they're hiring, and people may be hiring for temporary work, but as people are being forced to shut down and social isolate, the truth is unemployment is high and demands for workers is relatively extremely low. Not relatively, I'd say extremely low, except for in a few situations where they need more help. it really in the United States, assuming the laws that they're proposing to pass actually get signed into law and actually get implemented, which is a bit of a big assumption, there's probably never going to be a better time to be unemployed and file unemployment insurance compensation. And it, at the very least, if it's not the best time you're ever going to have an opportunity to do that, it is the best time as a safety precaution to be unemployed instead of getting coronavirus and potentially dying. So that's another thing to definitely consider. I guess I have to block this. Let's see. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Unity offers up free game dev courses and tutorials. Alright, so if you're interested in that, check that out. Unfortunately, I still feel like you probably are better off learning Unreal than Unity, unless you kind of know the style of games you want to make. If you're going to make mobile games, if you're going to make cutesy games, if you're going to make card games, if you're making anything that's not going to be a 3D modeled first-person shooter game, then you probably could do it in Unity. And in the end, learning Unity is really just learning C++ and a lot of layers on top of C, C++ or C# or whatever. So either one would be fine. It's just I would say if you're going to make first-person shooters, particularly, choose Unreal. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Customizable Steam avatar frames may be on the way. This is weird, and I'm not sure if that's something I particularly care about. Like, just more customizable things that don't really matter on Steam. I'd prefer them to offer something of more value. TechRaptor has an article here. WizKids April releases delayed indefinitely. I don't know what WizKids is. Apparently it's Heroes Clicks, D&D Icons, and Blade Runner games have all been delayed. So Marvel Hero Clips, D&D Icons, Marvel Hero Clips again, Tournament of Avalon, Blade Runner 2049, Nexus Protocol. I don't know what any of these games are though. Are these even board? Are these even video games, or are they board games? I haven't heard of any of these. I don't know if WizKids is like some kind of toy, kind of like Leapfrog, and that's why it's like some kind of, perhaps it's a locked-in walled garden toy that releases terrible ports of games. Okay. Next we have this article. Koei Tecmo asks fans to vote for Fairy Tail's reversible inlay, which I have no idea what that is, and a bathing suit option is winning. So apparently it was some kind of outfit skin, and they chose of the three options. Here, let's see. We have this option, which I don't know if this was, if reversible inlay means these are going to be like background images when it's loading, or this option, or this option, which I think it's pretty obvious why of those three options the bathing suit option would win. Not even having to know the audience or the story of Fairy Tail. Like, what is going to catch people's attention more than anything else. There's really not a lot more you have to take from that. Gearbox tweeted this out a day or two ago. Their co-founder Langdon Montgomery passed away. One of their co-founders, who is not Randy Pitchford and not in charge, probably hasn't been for a while. I don't know of the story here. There's just like no evidence or information. This is a pretty bad obituary. Here you have the problem with this. It's like, clearly he had better handle on Gearbox than Randy Pitchford did. It's a shame. And then it tweets to him talking about the allegations against Randy Pitchford. So yeah, a person that probably most people didn't know even existed, because if you'd asked me before that point, I would have said Randy Pitchford from day one started Gearbox, and he's always been the person in charge. That would just be my default assumption. And there's no reason to make any assumption on what he died from. He may have been just particularly old. It may have been the virus. It may have been something else. I know that there was the voice actor for like Claptrap, I think, was particularly sick before he left the company, but I don't think that he would have been the co-founder also. So that's the only other person I know that is sick and somewhat related to Gearbox. But I guess it is worth mentioning that Gearbox, the non-Quebec office, the original office of Gearbox, is in Dallas, Texas County, or Dallas County, Texas, and that is a dense area that is being hit by the virus. So it's not unbelievable to think that many, if not all of the many, if not most of the employees at Gearbox might get infected, as they're kind of expecting everybody to eventually get infected at this point. Moving on, Gematsu has the final Platinum Games Platinum 4 announcement is set for April 1st. Doozy of an announcement incoming. You see these stars here. Now, it is worth mentioning that there was an April Fool's Day game that was released, Bayonetta in 2D, for free a couple years ago, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was a new Bayonetta in 2D or some game like that, Nier Automata in 2D, as an April Fool's Day game released for free. The other announcements are Wonderful 101 Remastered, Project GG, and Platinum Games Tokyo. So, yeah. The only other thing with a 4 in it would be if they were going to announce Bayonetta 4 when Bayonetta 3 is not out, or if they were going to announce a Nier game 4. I think they're up to the 4th game in the Nier series, even though Nier Automata kind of reset the counter there, and you don't need to play the 2 Nier games before that. And I could be actually wrong. Nier Automata might be the 2nd game in the series, so I'm not really certain. I'm about to lose here, so just go ahead and assume I'm lose. And then I think we'll just burn through the games and not play another game. Not play another game on Magic, because yeah, I'm not really paying enough attention to get victories and do anything else. Yeah, and it doesn't seem like there isn't too much to even really do. just continue to work towards rank 90. Yeah, probably this weekend I'll get to rank 90, and then it's just all gravy for the remaining 19 days to get some uncommon rewards, which it would be nice if these were uncommon rewards outside of standard, or higher, uncommon or higher outside of standard. That would be a better deal. We have a game on Steam here called Mira that looks like it is probably an adventure game. I would not particularly call it a point and click adventure so much, and I really wouldn't particularly call it a hidden object game either, although it kind of looks like that. It looks a little bit in between. $8.99. I like the art style, and I like the middle ground of an adventure game idea, so I'm going to put it on the follow list. It's English and Polish, and a lot of fairy tale stories like this often do come from those Eastern Bloc Polish type countries, so that looks interesting. Then I'm gonna just click on this. Is there a faster way to do this? Unsuspend all tabs. I guess I could do that, but then they would all, yeah, we could try that. Let's just unsuspend all tabs and see how that works. And then everything should suspend back later on. Alright, so we've got a game on Steam called Grand Guilds, which might be a clone of that Nintendo game, The Three Houses is the subtitle of it. I forget the main name of it. This looks interesting, and it looks a little card-based tactical RPG. $17.99, English full audio. Yep. I'm gonna put it on the follow list, and we'll see how that works. It's already rated positively. It needs just a few more reviews. Let's see. Next, we have a game called One Step from Eden. This was a kind of clone of Mega Man Battle Network, but unlike Mega Man Battle Network, it's not turn-based. It's much faster paced. It's rated very positively. It already meets the threshold. I'm going to put it on the follow list. $19.99. This is a game that I'd like to play. One would hope it doesn't end up a game that I would just spotlight, because I could also see myself playing it for like an hour and going, okay, I get the idea, but there might not be a lot here to keep you playing. None of the screenshots show like a real story or world map or anything that feels like a progression point. Next, we have a game on Steam called Strange Creatures, which I think is probably a low effort asset flip game. The creatures do look strange. Unfortunately, the rest of the game looks like it is kind of nothing. It's early access free, and it says it's single player, but it says up here it's a 1 to 4 player couch co-op puzzle game. It's English only. Yeah, I think this is probably more of a tech demo than an actual game, so I'm gonna say no to that. But next, we have a game on Steam called Manatech, which looks like a oddly isometric top-down twin stick shooter that is weirdly zoomed in. Yeah, it looks kind of like a mobile game that's been ported to PC. Early access, $13.49, English only. Nothing there of interest. Let's see, next we have Trailer Trashers. And yes, I do know, now that I'm doing things differently, I'm coming over here to the side, triggering the web peak for no reason. It's really just been ingrained in me to do that every time I want to show my second monitor. Trader Trashers is a top-down twin-stick shooter with a little bit more visual polish than the last one I looked at, but still kind of nothing. And probably too much garbage on the screen in general, which would be distracting. $7.99 discounted, English full audio, and a bunch of other languages in the interface. So, yep, nothing there. Next we have Assemble with Care, which is rated very positively. I think this is a puzzle game where you have to put items together or take things apart, which is an interesting idea. I don't know how far you can get with something like that and how far you go before you're just faking technology. Like, this is kind of what I would have wanted to see with the PC building simulator game that came out a while ago, but it kind of never, that game didn't really turn into that. And it still really hasn't done anything that was amazingly interesting. Yeah, you probably aren't going to run into too many things that you take apart other than what we just saw in the demo. $6.79, English full audio. Alright, I'm willing to put this on the wish list. Looks like it might be an interesting little puzzle experience. It's probably not going to be super long. It is tagged as short. And so I probably wouldn't want to pay $7 for it, but if I could get it down to $4, I'd be fine with that. It is, I suppose, worth mentioning that if you are actually fixing or repairing things, the devil is going to be in the details and the different kinds of models of things. Fixing one record player is going to be completely different from fixing a different record player. If it's a different brand, of a different era, of a different style. Next we have a game on Steam called Voltic Pistol, which looks like a platforming shooter with some dark backgrounds and some graphics that don't look very impressive. $9.59 discounted. Whole bunch of language it claims, all of which have full audio, which is to assume that none of the characters actually talk. We have about 10 games left. Next we have Family Mysteries, Poisonous Problems. I would have thought this was from Big Fish Games, but apparently not. But obviously it is just a hidden object game. Now if it isn't from Big Fish Games, that does mean it might be cheaper than their standard $12.99. $11.99 discounted, English full audio, and a bunch of other languages. Yep. Still not really in the mood to buy or play any more hidden object games. Once you've done about 10 or 20 of them, you've done them all. Next we have Main Assembly Beta, which looks like a game where you build things if you put a lot of effort into it. Doesn't look like it's particularly easy. I don't know, maybe you're building tracks there instead of actually building planes. I suppose it is worth mentioning that Nintendo told Sony to take down all the content that was copyright infringing on Dreams, which pretty much ruined Dreams. And we knew that was going to happen. Main Assembly Beta is free, so I guess you can check it out. English full audio. But yeah, it doesn't look like it's of anything of interest. Yep. That is the major danger of making something like Dreams and spending so much time making a game where you can make other elements from other games, is that you're just supporting and making it easier for people to infringe on copyright, because those are the things that they like. They make Mario World 1 stuff. Moving on, we have The Room VR Dark Matter, which the Room games are fine, but not amazing. They're fine little puzzle games. This in VR is interesting, but I'd want to not have to play it in VR, and I definitely would not want to have to pay $30, which is way too expensive for even a VR game. So I guess for my own curiosity, I want to see if it's rated well, and it is. So I guess maybe I'll put it on the fall list, and maybe if at some point this was free and I had VR headsets, that'd be great. But yeah, that kind of sucks. If we look here at Fireproof Games, the Room VR A Dark Matter is not the Room 2 or the Room 3. I don't even know if I've covered the Room 3. I think I did. I think I've rushed through it. And the Room 1 probably was best played on the iPad. So they've got a game that's gone from the iPad to PC versions to now VR versions. So they're quickly splitting between many different platforms. Next we have Charterstone Digital Edition, which is a mixed turn-based simulation game. Looks to me like it's probably a cell phone game. Resource management game, trying to be kid friendly. $16.71, 12% off, third party account, bunch of language supports. Yep, definitely nothing impressive there. Next we have a game called Down the Rabbit Hole, which might be a loose interpretation of Alice in Wonderland. It's in VR. Yep, it's maybe a bit more of a direct interpretation of Alice in Wonderland in VR. Alright, so what's the price? $19.99, a little too expensive for VR. English full audio and French, German, and Spanish otherwise. I'm gonna put it on the fall list just because I'm a sucker for Alice in Wonderland stories. But this doesn't even look particularly interesting. In fact, yeah, I can just take it off because it just doesn't look that good. And I can't really imagine trying to get a kid interested in Alice in Wonderland and putting a VR headset on them to be that the sales pitch, when you could just as easily have them watch the Disney movie or read the book or go in several other directions. Next we have Railgunners on Steam, which is a side-scrolling shooter. Not a style of game that I'm particularly interested in. And the art is a little soft. It's not terrible though. Let's see, early access, coming soon, English only, third party EULA. It's not even available, but the demo's available, so yeah. Maybe if you were a big fan of side-scrolling shooters, that would be interesting. Here we have this game was on sale for free, so it's a terrible mixed reviewed game, but whatever. We'll add it to my account, but I wouldn't really recommend people wasting a lot of time playing Nephi's the beginning, because that is the creator that basically just makes walking simulators and sells them, and they're pretty looking, but they're too expensive for what they are. Alright, next we have a game here called Iron Danger, which starts with a character falling on a spike and dying, apparently. It gives some time manipulation powers according to this tag. It kind of looks like Torchwood, and it's from Daedalic as a publisher. Not Torchwood, Torchlight. Torchwood is the Doctor Who thing. $29.74 discounted is very expensive though. English full audio. It's rated very positively though. So I'm gonna put it on the fall list and think about it, because that price is really, really high. And yeah, I feel like Daedalic should just be making more point and click adventures more than anything else. Next we have Bright Memory. This game was talked about as it is coming out of early access, and they were working on it. I believe this was not the game. Oops, didn't mean to click on it. That was that one demo that was kind of this Chinese game that was interesting. Or maybe this was that game. I don't know. It seems like it was that game. Anyways, we're kind of holding our breath to see if a final version of this actually comes out. It's $4.68 now. And it's Bright Memory Infinite that's actually the full version. If anything, I should take this off the follow list and then click on this, and I should put this on the follow list. And we're still like trying to figure out whether this is going to be a real game or not. Yeah, and this is, I'm still not sure. Let's see. Yeah, I don't even know what to do with Bright Memory, so I'll put it on the wish list and think about it from that perspective. Next, we have a game on Steam called Aerial Raver, which looks like it's a fighting game, kind of a low effort troll joke game. Early access for $14.99, English only. I think the gimmick here is that you just always are in the air and you have to just always do air combos and juggles. Yeah, nothing interesting there. What's funny is that the tabs have already they've already decided to suspend again. I changed the time it took. And Steam has the Polish Spring Festival bundle, which I don't think you'd really want to buy right now for that price. Wanderlust, Travel Stories, Frostpunk, The War of Mine, Darkwood, Super Hot, We the Revolution, Observer, My Memory of Us, and Get Even. So 15% off if you buy it, buy the bundle, and $172 or $202. Yeah, that's a rather expensive bundle right now to be buying. Let's see. Next we have Adventures of J.Q. Jones, Isle the Serpent Empress, which compared to Half-Life Alyx, these graphics don't look as good now. Let's see, does this require VR? Or does it just support VR? Interestingly, this one isn't labeled as requiring VR, but it really wouldn't be much of a game without VR. And even here, it doesn't really look like it's much of a game. So, yep, I'm gonna pass on that. And then we've got 3 more tabs, and then we're gonna be done. TechRaptor has an article here. Raji brings Indian mythology to the masses. This is that Indian game that's in development that might be very interesting to play when it actually comes out, but also has the danger of not being that great and being overhyped. So, yeah. So, that'll be interesting when it comes out. We also have a game called Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms on Steam, which is clearly an idle game with a lot of characters. It's rated very positively. It's free to play with a bunch of DLC and in-app purchase. So, I still don't know if you really would want to play idle games on your PC. And then TechRaptor has One Step from Eden review. This is a game I already put on the fall list or wish list. What did they say about it? 9.0. They thought it was amazing. Okay. And then that brings me to the Humble Bundle. Let me just see if there's any new bundles. I bet there aren't. There's a Just Drive bundle. I think that might be new. Or maybe we already talked about it. It's a bunch of racing games. I'm not even going to go into details for that. And yeah, I don't see anything else. So, yep, that then brings me back to my Twitter feed. And let's just see if there's any big bits of news that need to be talked about that came out before this, during this stream. Otherwise, we're going to be done for the day. And I'm only in probably the average amount of pain right now. Although, in all fairness, I have been sitting on ice packs. So, if anything was going to stop me from being in large amounts of pains, the ice packs were going to do that. Scrolling down my Twitter feed. This is a great point to have some secondary commentator to talk for a few minutes while I was doing this. Gamasutra has an article. Tencent and Huawei are working on a mobile cloud gaming platform. So that probably will be a Chinese-only element platform. I doubt that would come anywhere to the West, since Huawei is pretty much not welcome in the United States and other countries often. Sorry, I'm moving slow here, trying to read articles that don't really matter. Twitch support says your well-being is important. They're taking steps to improve that, starting with peace of mind. Blocking users now removes them from your followers list. Channel banning users will remove them from your chat list so you don't see them anymore. Okay, so just absolutely forget these people ever existed that you block or channel ban. Which is probably not that helpful. Mentally. There's a game called 99 Anime Girls that came out on Steam that looks like a mobile phone port. I'll probably curate that away. The Steam Spring Game Festival had nearly 3 million visitors. I don't know if that really means that it had 3 million sales, though. OpenCritic has an article. Warframe is likely heading to the PS5 and Xbox Series X. OpenCritic has an article. Xbox first-party boss discusses COVID-19 how it's affecting the game development. American Truck Simulator visits the Rockies next with its Colorado expansion. Yeah, I had already seen that one. Maybe I didn't mention that. A lot of people talking about Half-Life Alyx. And that's about it, because yeah, we've gone like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and that's not a super long time, so particularly on Friday. So that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, which would be greatly appreciated, there's a link down to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching.